The Valley housing market is expensive. Home values and rental rates, they skyrocketed during the pandemic and they really haven't let up. Now, under a new proposal by the Biden administration, a rental increase would be capped across the country at just 5%. But will that actually help? Would it even go into effect? I spoke with a financial expert, Shane Stevenson, to get his opinion. Shane, thanks so much for joining us here to talk a little bit more about this proposal. So what are your thoughts on the 5% cap, just initially?
Well, right off the top of the bat, it basically makes me think about kind of what we've been seeing happen here in the Phoenix real estate market, rental market. And when we look at the numbers, it's actually the reality that we've seen rents ever so slightly decrease here in the Valley over the last year. It was by $3 a month, so by no means a noteworthy amount, but we're actually not really seeing increases either. Now, I can't speak for the rest of the country on that number, but as we see this 5% cap rule come in, if it becomes law, I don't think it's going to affect Valley residents and families living here that are trying to make rent and trying to pay their bills, simply because we haven't seen increases as of late. Now, things are, of course, very expensive. They're still quite unaffordable. I don't think this rule is going to make much difference for those of us living here.
During COVID, that was when we had the big spike. I mean, we had it with rental units. We had it with home values. It was like finally the home values were realistic. You know, we had kind of enjoyed home values that were a lot less in the Valley, and it was like COVID drove up the demand and obviously rentals as well.
Exactly. And so as those people that were trying to become homeowners couldn't afford it, they realized they couldn't afford it. It drove them to the market for rentals. And then, of course, the prices went up there. Inflation was impacting all of us on top of that. And we had a little bit of a limited supply. And so a big part of this Biden proposed rule is to try to stimulate the growth and the production of new housing. Now, I'm not sure how effective that may or may not be. It's still yet to be seen. But ultimately, if we can create more supply, that should reduce the demand. But the thing that really comes to mind for me is it begs the question, is this more of a Band-Aid on top of a larger issue? You know, what is really the root cause of all this inflation? What's the root cause of these high interest rates? I think maybe that's where we should be focusing more energy rather than just kind of Band-Aiding the issue and putting a big rule on top of it and telling these companies you can't raise rates. It makes me wonder.
Well, and we don't know. I mean, we could have finally some rate cuts in the future. I know that Jerome Powell talked a little bit about that they feel like inflation is kind of finally getting under control. It skyrocketed here all across the Valley. So a lot of people, certainly are talking about that. Democratic control of Congress would be needed to make this go into effect. Right now, that is not the reality. So I don't know that this would even pass, but maybe this is a possibility, could potentially help the Biden administration.
And that was one of the first thoughts that came to my mind as well. Who knows how likely this is to actually happen, but as we see the election getting closer and closer, this could just be simply a PR move, if you will, to try to gain attention for the campaign and try to gain attention from those voters that would be affected by this. And it's possible.
We will see. Obviously, the election is about 100 days away now. We'll probably be hearing some more in the future about the cost of living moving forward. Shane, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate your perspective.
Thanks so much.